All across North America, cities and towns have been dominated by a development pattern that promises both the amenities of the city and the wide open spaces of rural communities. After committing to more than half of a century to the suburban experiment, the results are clear. It can't pay for itself, and it struggles to deliver on both of its promises. However, a small town nestled in the Connecticut River Valley somehow escaped this development pattern. And it just might hold the answer to this question. How can a town combine rural and urban amenities without sacrificing either? Before I arrived in Brattleboro, I expected to spend most of my time downtown, showing you that it's possible to have a thriving downtown in a small town. When I arrived to Rebop Farm for my first interview, I realized pretty quickly that Brattleboro's downtown, despite making up much of its marketing material, is only half of Brattleboro's story. To show you why they won our Strongest Town contest this year, I'm going to take you to look at one of the many small family-owned farms that nourish Brattleboro's relationship to the land around it.
I think that when people see this, what they expect to hear about what is so special to me is that it's calm and serene, or that it's very beautiful, and it is those things, but for me it's the relationship that I have to the land. I see us as working partners, and I see us as very woven together in terms of our story.
So stick with me. This idea of being woven together isn't just some woo-woo concept. It's built into the design of Brattleboro itself. Being near the first permanent European settlement in Vermont, Brattleboro scaled and matured more than a century before what we call the Suburban Experiment.
We have our 18th and 19th century town, which is within the curve of the interstate. Beyond that, there's the West Village, which is on Route 9, which is the east-west highway for Vermont, for southern Vermont. There's a couple suburban developments that are off of Route 9 in western Brattleboro. The rest, it's mostly farms, it's mostly forest land.
The Abenaki people named this place Wantastigok, or Place of the Lost River. And this name is fitting because Brattleboro feels truly remote. The hills on the west and Mount Wantastikit on the New Hampshire border mean that it's difficult and expensive to build a typical modern American suburb on the surrounding land.
We're pretty hilly, and so as far as like actual good places to develop, is hard to find, and then places that aren't yet developed are really hard to find. And I think that's partially because we do value our rural spaces, and so there is sort of this conscious effort to not just sprawl.
This distinction has also been part of its identity long enough that Brattleboro citizens don't want to lose it.
Like, I can go to Gallery Walk on Friday night and there be people and music, and it's a fun time. And then also I can throw my hammock or kayak in my car and just drive just a little bit, and I can hop in the river.
A typical evening, would be, picking up our son from school. Right now he's still in school in the summer, and coming down here, riding our bikes as a family, maybe having dinner in town. We can walk to the retreat trails, we can walk to the retreat farm, we can walk downtown, we can walk to the co-op, we can walk to Wantastikit and hike a mountain. We don't even have to get in a car.
And this is a pretty common experience for people living in Brattleboro. People realize that the ability to live near downtown, but also have access to wide open space and land, is an anomaly. So they want to preserve it. Still, with a housing shortage, it's important that they are thinking about how to develop in the future.
I was on the planning board, and the Housing Coalition, they did a survey, and it had shown that there was about a 500 unit difference between what is the demanded is what is available. 500 apartments were needed 2 years ago. 500. And that was, I think, an extraordinarily conservative number.
We're going to be prepared to see a lot of large housing developments happen, and it's going to be infill development. We can't afford to build new roads, we can't afford to extend our sewer and water, but we do have the capacity to build up where our core is. The downtown, some of the surrounding neighborhoods, Some of the post-war subdivisions, we hope to see them develop more like our traditional neighborhoods, where they're a mix of uses, a mix of housing types, and a better sense of community.
You thought this was going to be a puff piece because Brattleboro won our Strongest Town contest, but we're less concerned with how polished a community is than how resilient it is. There are some uniquely difficult issues that Brattleboro is facing because of its lack of housing supply, but its current design means that infill development, if they're able to create enough, could keep this balance of urban and rural, which would allow Brattleboro to maintain the kind of community that Brian was talking about. This sense of community comes from having a reason to and a place for connecting with each other.
We have 2 kids. One of them was born in this house, and they're 11 and 7, and just feel like really rooted in community, and the web of connections feels very strong.
It's like, it's easy to know a lot of people here because there aren't that many people here. But it's just like when we're walking like down the street or like in the co-op, we always run into like at least one person that we know.
So in Chicago and San Francisco and Seattle, everybody was so spread out, like physically spread out, and you had to be really intentional about making plans or trying to find someone or make the time to see someone. And here, my community, I can't help but see them. It's hard to not see them.
I experienced this myself, running into several interviewees while walking around, exploring the town, and at the farmers market, which leads to the next thing that makes Brattleboro a strong town. Its design creates a powerful uniting force: good local food.
You know, before moving here, I'd always heard like, oh, know your farmer, eat local, eat seasonally, all these things that we talk about, but here you actually get a chance to live it. You actually get a chance to do it. And that is something, like I said, I don't think I could go back to not doing.
So one way that people in Brattleboro support farmers and get fresh food is through community-supported agriculture, or a CSA.
You sign up for a share or a double share or a half share, and that represents a certain amount of vegetables that you can go and pick up every week. Or in the case of some CSAs, it gets delivered to a store downtown, and you just go pick it up right then and there, a couple blocks from your house.
Somebody just dropped off like a 50-pound pork belly yesterday. Well, one of the farm guys out here, I don't even know who he was. He just left a note and said, hey, this is for you guys.
This benefit goes both ways. The producers who live on the outside of town get to enjoy the culture and amenities that exist because of the downtown.
A big part of it is that for me, I need downtown to exist for a lot of both like the amenities that I want, but also for the character of my town. I feel like we work, there's like not a push-pull, but like a complementary relationship where this farm is Brattleboro. This is what Brattleboro is. We're an agricultural community. We have lots of land that looks like this, that is a big part of our character, but it's also gallery walk. It's also the really beautiful murals all over town from artists that we know. It's, you know, the food scene and the restaurants and like the chefs that we've worked with. Those are all really connected and create the sense of place that I have.
So let's go downtown and figure out exactly what's going on there.
So Brattleboro is a concentrated 3 to 4 blocks. We have the Connecticut River, we have the West River, and so we're really nestled in this beautiful spot with the mountain behind us. And in that little area, you have everything that you're looking for. Cafes, shops, breweries, it's all right here.
For better or for worse, the compact size of downtown and its surrounding neighborhoods puts Brattleboro citizens face to face with neighbors who might be kept separate elsewhere.
In my neighborhood, we have single-family homes, we have apartment buildings, we have an emergency shelter for people experiencing homelessness. We have a house that rents to people who are coming out on probation. There's a millionaire just a block away from that. So we're used to living together, and that's the core of our community because it's a real community. We're not some gated theme park. We all live together. We know what it's like, and that's the model that we're building on.
It's a town that I first truly felt at home in the first time in my life. I think it was because of that feeling of acceptance. I think what I really loved the most about this town is how people embrace others' differences and they celebrate them, because it's more interesting that way.
And I met a group of people from this church, and that's where the trust started with them. Not because we were in church, it was just they were nice people. And they were from Brattleboro. They accepted me for who I was. They accepted me for my background. They accepted me for the tattoos. They accepted me for carrying a gun. They accepted my past. And they welcomed me with open arms.
We're queer, so there's a strong queer community here. There's an organization called Out in the Open, which is specifically building power and visibility and community among rural queer people.
So really, it's for the better. Brattleboro has a strong social fabric because people live alongside neighbors who are different from them. They know and depend on each other.
I don't know, I've got some really interesting relationships with our neighbors now as a result of those potlucks and having meals together. Those are my favorite relationships in this community, where we start and initially we're like, ooh, you are not like me and I'm not sure I like you. And then slowly over years, you're good neighbors, or, you invite each other to things and you have this slow exposure where I think those slow won relationships are the most precious. They give me the most perspective on my life.
In my mind, slow friendships like these are a sign of a life well lived. And if a town is designed to foster these kinds of relationships, it makes them more resilient. This combination of Brattleboro's size, design, authenticity, and resulting social fabric means that Brattleboro faces its problems head on.
One more thing that I love about Brattleboro that feels really important is a sense that our voices matter, and not just our voices matter, but like all voices matter. With representative town meeting, being a town meeting rep, yesterday a few of us met with the town manager to talk about community safety. We just organized a meeting, went into his office, had a conversation.
We have 5 select board members, and they do the oversight of day-to-day government, and we have a town manager who manages the professional staff. And then over all of it, we have a representative town meeting, and there are about 120 representatives. We meet once a year, or at least once a year. We sit down in the high school, we hash out our budget, our social service spending. In a good year, it comes in at about 14 hours, and on a bad year, it goes even further.
It's often during lambing season, so we can't be off the farm that long. But I love listening to our town meeting and listening to people argue for 16 hours about budgetary concerns. I love that there are people here that care enough to do that.
If you take one thing from this video, I hope it's this. Brattleboro won the Strongest Town contest, but they're not perfect. They struggle, they argue, sometimes for 14 hours straight, because they love this place. There truly is only one Brattleboro.
It's so unique and it's so special, and so everyone wants it, and they're willing to do whatever it takes.
It's that getting up every day and doing the work. When I first took this position in September, I went door to door, sort of on a listening and learning tour, and some of the business owners have been in business 20, 30, 40 years. There's a real commitment to Brattleboro, and I think everyone holds that feeling in a very genuine way, that we all feel connected to this place, committed to this space. We want to show up for each other, and I think that's why Brattleboro draws and keeps the people that it does.
Thank goodness I live here. I just feel inspired by the community, by the setting that it's in, and by my work here. And I feel really lucky to have found that.
My decisions affect this place so dramatically that our relationship together and the ways that we work together, it almost feels like a dance. It feels very special. It feels like no other relationship that I've ever had. It's deeply trying and challenging and rewarding and just so beautiful to me. It's very difficult for me to imagine life without that relationship.
That was a good answer.
Okay, good.
So we've been doing this contest every year since 2016, and while all of our winners have unique characteristics, everyone has embodied resilience and determination to improve despite its ongoing issues. If you think your town or city might be a good candidate, click on the link above or below to get more information on how to apply. The winners get to come to our national gathering, and we highlight why their community won with a video. So check that link out, subscribe if you want to see more stories like this, and keep doing what you can to make your town a better one.
Brattleboro used to be the #1 manufacturer of organs in
The country, maybe.
I think in the country. And
which kind of organs?
That's a good question. What kind of organs?
Like
church
organs.
organs.
Yes, organs that you would play in a church.